Hey there. Tonight, we're traveling back over 3,000 years, back to 1194 BCE, to the Bronze Age shores of the Aegean Sea, where the Mediterranean sun beat down on limestone walls and bronze swords gleamed in calloused hands. You're standing in a world where gods walk among mortals, where a single insult at a wedding feast would ignite the greatest war the ancient world had ever seen. Where one woman, beautiful, trapped, defiant, would become the face that launched 1,000 ships. But here's what they never taught you in school. This wasn't just about love or beauty. This was about wounded pride, divine vengeance, and the kind of petty spite that could burn entire civilizations to ash. So, dim the lights, get comfortable. Let me take you back to dusty Greek palaces, to the moment 3 goddesses stood before a shepherd prince, each offering him the world if he'd only choose her. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is there. Are you in for the long haul tonight? Because this story doesn't rush. It unfolds the way wildfires do, slowly at first, then all at once, consuming everything. Let's begin. You are standing on Mount Ida, high above the plains of Troy, where the air smells of wild thyme and sun-warmed stone. The year is 1194 BCE, and you are Paris, a shepherd prince who doesn't yet know he's a prince at all. You were abandoned as an infant because of a prophecy that you would bring destruction to Troy, but the mountain bears and a kind shepherd raised you instead. Your hands are rough from tending flocks, your skin bronzed from countless days beneath the Anatolian sun. This morning started like any other. You woke before dawn, led your sheep to better grazing, sang old songs to pass the hours. But now, as afternoon shadows lengthen, 3 figures shimmer into existence before you. Not mortal women, no, these are goddesses, and they radiate power that makes your knees weak and your breath catch. Hera, queen of the gods, stands tallest, a presence commanding absolute authority. Athena, grey-eyed and brilliant, studies you with an intelligence that feels like being dissected. Aphrodite, goddess of love, smiles with lips the colour of crushed pomegranates, and something in that smile makes your stomach flutter. They've come because of an insult. Because at a wedding on Mount Olympus, Eris, goddess of discord, threw a golden apple inscribed with, "For the fairest," among the guests. 3 goddesses claimed it. Zeus, wise enough to avoid this trap, sent them here. To you. To a shepherd who must choose which goddess is most beautiful. You don't know it yet, but your answer will drown the world in blood. Hera speaks first, and her voice carries the weight of mountains. You feel it in your chest, in your bones. She doesn't ask for your judgment. She commands it. "Choose me, Paris of Troy," she says, and hearing your true name spoken aloud for the first time in your remembered life makes your head spin. Yes, I know who you are. I know what you could be. She promises you power beyond imagining. Kingship over all of Asia. She'll make you the greatest ruler the world has ever seen, with armies that stretch to the horizon, and tribute flowing like rivers to your feet. Your name will echo through centuries as the Lord of Lords, the Shepherd King who rose to command the entire East. Before you can process this, Athena steps forward. Her grey eyes lock onto yours, and you feel naked under that gaze, stripped of all pretense and pride. "Wisdom," she says simply. "Victory in every battle you fight. Choose me, and I'll make you the greatest warrior and strategist who ever lived. You'll never know defeat. Enemies will break themselves against you like waves on stone." Her offer is tempting. What man doesn't dream of being unbeatable, of glory won through skill and courage? Then Aphrodite moves closer, and the world narrows to just her smile, her scent, roses and ocean spray, and something else you can't name. She doesn't shout or make grand gestures. She leans in, whispers for your ears alone, "Choose me, beautiful boy, and I'll give you the most beautiful woman in the world. Helen of Sparta. You'll have love that poets will sing about for all eternity." You're 23 years old. You've never been with a woman. You've spent your life on a mountain with sheep, and she's offering you everything you've ever wanted without knowing you wanted it. Your mind races through the offers like a drowning man grasping at driftwood. Power, kingdoms, that's abstract, distant. You can't picture what ruling Asia would feel like. You know sheep, rocky hillsides, the simple taste of bread and olive oil. Hera's offer is too large, too impossible to hold in your imagination. Athena's promise calls to something deeper. You've always been skilled with the small weapons you've fashioned, the sling, the shepherd's staff used as a quarterstaff. Victory in battle sounds glorious, but you've never wanted war. You've lived your whole life in peace, watching clouds and seasons change, and the thought of blood on your hands makes something in your stomach turn cold. But Helen, Aphrodite's whispered promise wraps around your heart like honey, like warm hands on a winter night. You've heard tales of Helen, even here, isolated on your mountain. Travelers passing through have spoken of Menelaus of Sparta's wife, the most beautiful woman ever born, daughter of Zeus himself, conceived when the king of gods took the form of a swan. They say men have killed each other just to serve in her household, to catch a glimpse of her face. You're young. You're lonely. You've spent 23 years with sheep and solitude, and Aphrodite is offering you love, passion, desire fulfilled. Not just any woman, the woman, the face that makes strong men weep. The golden apple feels heavy in your hand, though you haven't yet reached for it. You can feel your destiny pivoting on this moment, the future branching into different darknesses. Some part of you knows that this choice will cost you everything. But you're 23, and you've never touched a woman's hand with anything but shepherding innocence, and Aphrodite's smile promises an end to all that lonely aching. "I choose," you begin, and 3 goddesses lean forward. "I choose Aphrodite," you say, and the words leave your mouth before you fully understand what you've done. The goddess of love is the fairest. You reach for the golden apple, and it's warm in your palm, almost hot, like holding a coal that doesn't burn but pulses with its own heartbeat. You extend it toward Aphrodite, and when she takes it from your hand, her fingers brush yours, and something electric passes between you. She laughs, delighted, holding her prize up to catch the dying sunlight. Then you make the mistake of looking at Hera and Athena. Hera's face has transformed into something terrible. The Queen of Gods doesn't bother hiding her fury. Why would she? You've insulted her before arrival, declared her less beautiful than Aphrodite, rejected her magnificent offer of power. Her eyes promise destruction. Not quick destruction either. Slow, thorough, the kind of vengeance that will echo through generations. "You will regret this, Paris of Troy," she says, and each word falls like a hammer blow. "I will grind your city to dust. I will make your father's name a curse. Everything you love will burn." Athena says nothing, but her silence is somehow worse. The goddess of wisdom and war simply looks at you with those grey eyes, and you see your death reflected there. Not just your death, the deaths of thousands. She nods once, picks up her helmet, and vanishes in a shimmer of light that smells like bronze and blood. Hera disappears next, leaving only the scent of ozone and a whispered curse on the wind. Troy will fall. Aphrodite remains, and she's still smiling. "Don't worry about them," she says, waving a dismissive hand toward where the other goddesses vanished. They're poor losers, always have been. Now, about your reward. She circles you slowly, and you realize with growing unease that you've made a bargain with a goddess. Not just any bargain. A binding promise from one of the most powerful immortals in existence. She will give you Helen. That's not a question. The question is what it will cost. Helen is married, Aphrodite says conversationally, to Menelaus of Sparta. Do you know what happened when Helen came of age to marry? Every prince and king in Greece wanted her. There was almost a war just over who would wed her. They were all so desperate for her that Helen's father, well, her mortal father, Tyndareus, made them all swear an oath. Each suitor swore to defend whichever man Helen chose, to protect her marriage against anyone who might threaten it. Your throat goes dry. Every prince and king. Every important one, she confirms cheerfully. Agamemnon of Mycenae, Odysseus of Ithaca, Ajax the Great, Diomedes, Idomeneus of Crete. Oh, dozens of them. All bound by sacred oath to protect Helen's marriage. She pauses, letting that sink in. To protect her marriage against someone like you, who might steal her away. You sit down hard on a boulder, the implications crashing over you like a wave. You're sending me to steal a married woman, and if I do, all of Greece will come for me. Aphrodite's smile doesn't falter. I'm giving you the love of the most beautiful woman in the world, exactly as promised. What happens after? Well, that's just life, isn't it? You spend that night on the mountain, unable to sleep, watching stars wheel overhead. The next morning, your foster father finds you and delivers news that confirms Aphrodite wasn't lying about knowing your identity. Messengers from Troy have come. They're searching for the lost prince, for you. King Priam has learned through an oracle that his abandoned son still lives and wants to bring you home. Everything Aphrodite promised about your true identity was accurate. That should terrify you more than it does. The journey down to Troy takes half a day. You're quiet, clutching your shepherd's staff like a talisman, while the messengers chatter excitedly about the king's generosity, the palace's splendor, the forgiveness Priam extends to his abandoned son. They don't know about the prophecy, the one that said you'd burn Troy to the ground. Or if they know, they're pretending it doesn't matter. Troy rises before you as you crest the final hill, and your breath catches. You've seen it from above, distant and abstract, but this close it's overwhelming. The walls stretch skyward, massive limestone blocks fitted so precisely you couldn't slip a knife blade between them. 6 gates, each one guarded by warriors in bronze armor that catches the afternoon sun. Towers rise at intervals, banners snapping in the sea breeze. The greatest city in all of Asia Minor, they call it. Your city, apparently. Your birthright. Inside the walls, the streets teem with life. Merchants hawking goods from Egypt and Cyprus and the distant east. Children playing. Women carrying water jugs. Warriors drilling in courtyards. The palace sits at the city's heart, and as you climb its steps, your shepherd's clothes feel even more threadbare and ridiculous. Your father waits in the throne room, and he weeps when he sees you. King Priam embraces you, and you're stiff in his arms, unsure how to respond. This man abandoned you to die as an infant, and now he's weeping into your shoulder about how the gods have blessed him by returning his son. It's complicated, this feeling. Anger, mixed with a strange, desperate need for his approval. Your mother, Queen Hecuba, is more reserved. She touches your face with trembling fingers, examining your features, and you can see her trying to reconcile the baby she gave away with the man before her. Her eyes are sad, haunted. She knows the prophecy. She's the one who had the dream that you'd burn Troy, the one who insisted on your death. Now, here you stand, alive, and she's weighing whether embracing you means embracing their doom. Your brother Hector is the hardest to read. He's everything you're not. A trained warrior, beloved by the people, Troy's greatest defender and future king. He studies you the way a general studies enemy formations, looking for weaknesses, assessing threats. When he finally speaks, his voice is careful, controlled. Brother. Welcome home. The word brother doesn't sound welcoming. Priam declares a feast in your honor. Within days, you're installed in royal apartments you never imagined could exist. Rooms with painted frescoes, furniture inlaid with ivory, servants attending your every need. They dress you in fine linen and wool, drape you in jewelry, teach you court manners and proper speech. The shepherd's staff disappears, replaced with a sword you barely know how to use. You try to settle into this new life, but Aphrodite's promise haunts you. Helen. The goddess hasn't forgotten, and she won't let you forget either. You feel her presence sometimes, a whisper at the edge of your thoughts. Soon. I'll tell you when. 3 months pass. You learn courtly ways, how to speak with diplomats, how to sit through endless councils discussing trade routes and tribute and threats from the Mycenaean Greeks across the sea. Hector takes you to the training grounds, and you're humiliated by how easily he disarms you, how the common soldiers barely hide their smirks watching the shepherd prince fumble with weapons. You improve, slowly, but you'll never be what Hector is, a born warrior, comfortable with violence in a way you can never quite manage. Then, Aphrodite's voice comes one evening as you're overlooking the sea from Troy's western wall. You feel her before you hear her, that distinctive warmth in the air, the scent of roses. It's time, Paris. You'll lead a diplomatic mission to Sparta, to King Menelaus's court. I'll arrange everything. I can't, you whisper, though no one else is around to hear. Hector should lead any mission. You will go, Aphrodite interrupts, and her voice carries divine command, impossible to refuse. I've already planted the suggestion in Priam's mind. Tomorrow he'll announce you as Troy's envoy. Menelaus is looking for Eastern allies. He'll welcome you. And when you see Helen, her laughter shivers through you. When you see her, you'll understand why you made the right choice. The next morning, exactly as she promised, Priam summons the council. He's sending you to Sparta as Troy's representative, a chance to prove yourself as diplomat rather than warrior. Hector's jaw tightens, but he says nothing. He can't argue with the king, can't admit he doesn't trust you. But his eyes say everything his mouth doesn't. Don't do this. Whatever you're planning, don't. You want to tell him you're not planning anything. But that would be a lie, wouldn't it? The voyage to Sparta takes 12 days. You sail with a small delegation, gifts of Trojan textiles and metalwork, jars of oil and wine, 24 men chosen by Hector. He doesn't come himself. Someone needs to defend Troy, he says, and you both know he means defend Troy from whatever disaster you're about to cause. The ship rocks gently as you cross the Aegean, and you spend hours staring at the water, trying to think of a way out of this. You could turn back, tell Priam you're ill, unfit for diplomacy. But Aphrodite's presence hums in your bones, guiding the ship like an invisible hand on the rudder. She won't let you fail her, or succeed, depending on how you measure success. Sparta appears different from Troy. Where your city rises with massive walls and towers, Sparta sprawls across a valley with minimal fortifications. The Spartans don't fear invasion. They are the invasion everyone else fears. Their city is their warriors, not their walls. You're greeted with cautious hospitality. Guards with spears, yes, but also garlands of flowers, wine offered in friendship. King Menelaus himself comes to greet you at the palace entrance. He's older than you expected, mid-40s, with the solid build of a warrior past his prime, but still dangerous. His face is weathered, scarred from old battles, but his smile seems genuine. "Prince Paris of Troy," he says, clasping your arm in the warrior's greeting. "Your father's reputation precedes you. Welcome to Sparta. My home is yours." He means it, you realize with sinking horror. This man who has every reason to hate Trojans is offering you genuine hospitality. The sacred bond between host and guest, protected by Zeus himself, and you're about to betray it. Then you see her. Helen is descending the palace steps to greet the guests, and the world stops. Just stops. Every traveller's tale, every whispered description, every fevered imagining, none of it prepared you for the reality of Helen of Sparta. She's not just beautiful. Beautiful is inadequate, a word too small to contain what you're seeing. She's luminous, otherworldly, moving with a grace that seems choreographed by the gods themselves, because, you remember with a jolt, she was, literally, fathered by Zeus. Divine blood runs through her veins, and it shows in every feature, every movement. Her hair catches the sunlight like captured gold. Her eyes are impossible to describe. Poets will spend centuries trying and failing, settling finally on star-like, though that doesn't capture it either. But it's not just her physical form. There's an intelligence in her gaze, a weariness that speaks of being stared at, coveted, fought over her entire life. She's 25 years old, married to Menelaus for 7 years, mother to a young daughter, and you can see in her eyes that she's spent those years being more prize than person. "Prince Paris," she says, and her voice is lower than you expected, musical but tinged with something like resignation. "Welcome to Sparta." "I am Helen. You should say something. You're a prince now, trained in diplomacy. Instead, you stand there like the shepherd you still are inside, mouth half open, all courtly training evaporating. Aphrodite's presence surges around you, invisible but intense, and you feel her pushing, guiding. Helen's eyes meet yours, and something passes between you. Recognition, perhaps, or just shared understanding. She knows why you're really here. Somehow, she knows. Menelaus notices nothing. He's gesturing toward the palace, talking about the feast he's prepared, the gifts he hopes to exchange, the alliance he's eager to forge between Sparta and Troy. You nod, you smile, and you can't stop looking at Helen. The feast that night is torture. You sit at Menelaus's right hand, a position of honor, while Helen sits beside her husband across the table. She's quiet, letting Menelaus dominate the conversation with talk of politics and trade. Occasionally she speaks, and when she does, everyone listens. Her words are measured, intelligent, chosen carefully. You realize she spent years learning to be heard without threatening her husband's authority. Menelaus drinks heavily, growing more jovial as the night progresses. He tells stories of battles, of the old days when he and his brother Agamemnon were young warriors making their names. He speaks with genuine affection of Troy's reputation, of Priam's wisdom, of his hope that this visit will cement lasting friendship. "Helen," he says at one point, words slightly slurred, "show Prince Paris the gardens tomorrow. The roses are blooming." "She loves the roses," he tells you with a proud, proprietary smile. "She's out there every morning." Helen's expression doesn't change, but something flickers in her eyes. Resignation, perhaps, or recognition that Aphrodite's trap is closing. You nod, thank him for his generosity, and hate yourself. This man has welcomed you into his home, offered you the sacred bond of hospitality, trusted you with his wife's company, and you're going to destroy him. Not because you want to, though God's help you, you do want Helen in a way that feels like drowning, but because a goddess commanded it, and you were fool enough to choose beauty over wisdom or power. After the feast, you lie in the guest quarters Menelaus provided, luxurious rooms, fine bed, every comfort, and stare at the ceiling. Aphrodite's voice whispers in the darkness, "Tomorrow." In the gardens, tell her the truth, that I sent you, that this is divine will. She'll understand. She has a daughter, you whisper back. A child. Love requires sacrifice, Aphrodite says simply. You'll understand that soon enough. Morning comes too quickly. You dress in simpler clothes. Menelaus's hospitality extends to Spartan garments more suited to the heat, and make your way to the palace gardens. The roses are indeed blooming, hundreds of them, in varieties you've never seen. Their scent hangs heavy in the morning air, almost overwhelming. Helen is already there, kneeling beside a white rose bush, touching the petals with careful fingers. She's wearing a simple pale blue peplos today, her hair in a single braid, less formally dressed than last night. She looks younger this way, more human, though no less beautiful. You don't have to pretend, she says without looking up. I know why you're here. Your prepared speech, carefully crafted diplomatic words, dies in your throat. You know. I've known since yesterday when I saw you. She finally looks at you, and those extraordinary eyes are sad, knowing. Aphrodite sent you. She's been whispering to me in dreams for weeks. He's coming, she says. The one who chose me. The one who will show you what real love is. Helen's voice is bitter, as if I have any choice in what the goddess of love decides. You step closer, not quite knowing what to say. You don't love Menelaus. Helen laughs, but there's no humor in it. Love? I was 14 when every prince in Greece came demanding my hand. My father made them all swear an oath, to protect whichever man I chose. Except I didn't choose. How could I? They presented suitor after suitor, and I was just a girl who wanted to keep reading, who wanted to learn astronomy and music, who didn't want to be fought over like a prize mare. She stands, brushing dirt from her peplos. Menelaus won me, or perhaps his brother Agamemnon's political power won me. It amounts to the same thing. I was given to him like a gift. Do you love me? Helen asks suddenly, and the directness of it catches you off guard. I've only just met you. Exactly. She walks along the garden path, and you follow. You don't love me. You love what you've been promised. The most beautiful woman in the world. She makes quotation gestures with her fingers, sardonic. You love the prize, the achievement, the way other men will look at you, with envy. Aphrodite promised you something to ease your loneliness, your feeling of being less than your warrior brother. She didn't promise you me. She promised you my beauty, my reputation, the bragging rights to Helen of Sparta. Her words cut because they're partially true. You fantasized about Helen for months, but you fantasized about an idea, not the tired, sardonic woman walking beside you, who speaks of being a prize. That's not, you begin, but she cuts you off. Do you know what will happen if we do what Aphrodite wants? If I leave with you. She stops walking, turns to face you fully. Every man who swore that oath, And we're talking about the greatest warriors in Greece will come for us. Menelaus will call upon his brother Agamemnon, who commands the largest fleet in Greece. They'll gather armies. Thousands of men will sail to Troy, and they won't leave until they've taken me back, or razed your city trying. People will die, Paris. Hundreds, thousands of people. And for what? So a goddess could win a beauty contest? You want to argue, but how can you? She's right. Hera and Athena promised you their rage, and they're goddesses who keep promises. Helen's describing exactly what they threatened. But I have to, you say finally, hating how weak it sounds. Aphrodite chose us, Helen finishes. I know. Believe me, I know. So what do we do? You ask. The question hangs between you like a blade. Helen is quiet for a long moment, staring at a red rose as if it holds answers. I don't know, she admits finally. I've spent 7 years being Menelaus's wife. He's not cruel, that's what makes this harder. He's actually kind in his way. Simple, loves to hunt and feast and tell the same stories, but kind. He trusts me. He leaves me alone with you because the thought that I might choose to leave never crosses his mind. Would you? The question escapes before you can stop it. Choose to leave, I mean. If we both had free choice, if goddesses weren't involved, would you come with me? Helen looks at you then, really looks, and you see her evaluating. Not your face or your body, your character, your intentions, what you might offer beyond being Aphrodite's chosen instrument. I don't know you well enough to answer that. But I know. She pauses, choosing words carefully. I know that my life here is comfortable but empty. I have a daughter, Hermione. She's 6. Beautiful, like they say I am. Which means her future will probably be like my past. Fought over, given away, trapped by her own face. Menelaus loves her, but he loves me more as a possession than a person. I'm the prize that made him king of Sparta, the beautiful wife that other men envy. She sits on a stone bench beneath an arbor heavy with climbing roses. If I could choose freely, truly freely, I'd want to go somewhere no one knew my name or face. I'd want to be nobody, nothing special, just a woman who could walk through a marketplace without every eye following her, who could speak without men either fawning or hating. But that's not one of my choices, is it? No, you admit. I don't think either of us has real choices here. That night, you can't sleep again. Aphrodite's presence is stronger now, insistent, pushing at your thoughts like a physical pressure. You feel her will pressing against yours, and you understand with cold clarity that you're not really in control anymore. Maybe you never were, from the moment you chose her on Mount Ida. You slip from your room and find yourself wandering the palace. Moonlight streams through high windows, casting everything in silver and shadow. You're not consciously heading anywhere, but your feet carry you through corridors until you find yourself outside Helen's quarters. The door opens before you can knock. Helen stands there in a simple white shift, her hair unbraided and loose around her shoulders. She's been crying. You can see it in her reddened eyes, but her face is composed now, resigned. Aphrodite sent you dreams too, she asks quietly. You nod. I'm sorry. Don't be. It's not your fault. Not really. She steps aside, letting you into her chambers. It's surprisingly spare for a queen. Some fine furniture, yes, but mostly practical. Books, scrolls, an astrolabe on a table, Menelaus left 2 days ago for Crete. Funeral games for King Catreus. He'll be gone 3 weeks. Aphrodite's timing is impeccable, isn't it? You understand, then. The goddess arranged everything. Menelaus's absence, your visit, even the conversation in the garden. She's been orchestrating this seduction like a general planning a campaign. We could refuse, you say. But even as you speak, you feel Aphrodite's presence surge with warning. Refuse her, and you'll suffer consequences you can't imagine. We could, Helen agrees. And then what? She's a goddess, Paris. She doesn't lose. If we don't do this willingly, she'll make us do it anyway. She'll cloud our minds, inflame our passions until we can't think clearly. At least this way. At least this way we go into it knowing what we're doing. Tell me about Hermione, you say, because you need to understand what she's giving up, what you're asking her to abandon. Helen's face softens and hardens simultaneously. She's 6. Smart, too smart for her own good. Asks questions about everything. She loves horses, wants to learn to ride like the boys do. Menelaus indulges her, lets her run wild in ways girls usually aren't allowed. She pauses, tears threatening again. She looks like me. Everyone says so. Same hair, same eyes. Which means by the time she's 14, she'll have the same life I did. Men fighting over her. Her father using her as a political tool. You could bring her, you offer. But Helen shakes her head. No. Taking his wife might be explained as passion, divine intervention, something Menelaus could eventually understand. But taking his daughter, his heir, that's an act of war beyond forgiveness. And she wipes her eyes roughly. If I take her to Troy, and Troy falls, and it will fall, Paris, don't doubt that, then I've brought her to her death. At least here, with Menelaus, she'll survive whatever war comes. He'll protect her. The full weight of what you're asking, what Aphrodite is demanding, settles over you like a burial shroud. Helen isn't just leaving a husband she doesn't love. She's abandoning her child. The goddess of love is requiring a mother to choose between her own trapped existence and her daughter's presence. Maybe we could, you begin, but Aphrodite's presence flares with warning, making your head throb. The goddess's patience is wearing thin. Helen sees something in your expression. She's here now, isn't she? Aphrodite. Pushing. Yes. Then we're out of time. Helen moves away from the window, and her resignation transforms into something harder, more defiant. If we're doing this, if we're bringing war and death because a goddess decided to make a point, then I'm going on my terms, not hers. She crosses to you, and her eyes are fierce. I won't be stolen. I won't be abducted. I'm choosing this. Do you understand? Whatever happens, I want that clear. I, Helen, am choosing to leave. You leave before dawn breaks, while Sparta still sleeps. Not stolen away like a frightened captive, but walking out together, Helen dressed in travelling clothes, carrying a small bag with a few personal items. She leaves most of her jewellery, most of her fine dresses. She takes her books, the astrolabe, a small wooden horse Hermione carved for her last birthday. That's what makes you understand the finality of this. She's taking only what matters, what has meaning beyond monetary value. She writes a letter for her daughter, leaves it on her bed. You don't ask what it says. That's between mother and child, and you've already taken enough. Your Trojan delegation waits at the ships, and they know without being told that everything has changed. They see Helen walking beside you, see the determination in her stride, the bags she carries. One of them, an older soldier named Aeneas, pulls you aside. Prince Paris, do you understand what you're doing? This woman's husband, I know, you interrupt. I know exactly what this means. Aeneas searches your face, then looks at Helen, who meets his gaze steadily. It's my choice, she tells him firmly. Not an abduction. Not force. My choice. The soldier looks between you both, then nods slowly. Then we sail for Troy. May the gods help us all. The voyage back feels different from the journey there. You stand at the rail with Helen, watching Sparta disappear into the distance. She's crying silently, tears streaming down her face, but she doesn't turn back, doesn't waver. I'll never see her again, she says quietly. Hermione. I'll never watch her grow up, never see who she becomes. That's what Aphrodite cost me. That's what love cost me. You want to say something comforting, but there's nothing. You've given her up to be with a man she barely knows. Fled to a foreign city because a goddess commanded it. There's no comfort in any of this. News travels faster than ships. By the time you reach Troy, 3 days after leaving Sparta, messengers have already arrived from Menelaus. He returned from Crete to find his wife gone, his household in chaos, the palace in uproar. His rage, the messengers report, was terrible to witness. He screamed curses at Troy, swore revenge, smashed furniture, and wept openly at the betrayal. More concerning, Agamemnon is already calling in the oath. Every prince and king who once courted Helen, who swore to defend her marriage, is being summoned to fulfill that vow. The muster point is Aulis. They're gathering the largest fleet Greece has ever assembled. Priam meets you at Troy's harbour, and his face when he sees Helen is complex. Awe at her beauty, horror at the implications, anger at you for bringing this doom home. What have you done? He asks, and you have no answer. But Helen speaks up. He's done what the goddess commanded. Aphrodite chose us for this. If you're looking for someone to blame, blame her. Or blame me. I chose to come. Hector arrives, already in armor, and his look could melt bronze. You've brought war to Troy, he says. Everything I've built, every alliance, every year of peace, you've destroyed it all for... He looks at Helen, and even he seems momentarily stunned by her presence before his anger returns. For this, for love, Aphrodite's voice, through you both, and you realize she's speaking through you, your mouth forming her words. For passion that will outlive kingdoms, for a story that will never die. Hector's hand moves to his sword. Get out of my brother's body, goddess. You've done enough damage. The presence vanishes, leaving you, and Hector looks at you with something like pity, mixed with his rage. She won't protect you when the Greeks come. You know that, don't you? You're a man to her, a game piece. When you die on some Greek spear, she'll just find another favorite. He's right. You know he's right, but it's too late to matter now. The council meets immediately. Every prince of Troy's royal family, every important ally, gathers in the great hall to debate what comes next. Helen is not allowed to attend. She's escorted to chambers that feel less like guest quarters and more like gilded imprisonment. You're brought before the council like a criminal, and perhaps that's what you are. Send her back, one elder counsels, immediately. With gifts, with apologies. Perhaps Menelaus can be appeased. He can't, another argues. The insult is too great. His honor demands satisfaction. Gifts won't solve this. Then we prepare for war, a third says. We have the greatest walls ever built. Let the Greeks come. Let them dash themselves against Troy like waves against cliffs. Hector stands. You don't understand what's coming. This isn't a small raid, a border skirmish we can handle in a season. Agamemnon is calling in every kingdom that swore that oath. Mycenae, Sparta, Ithaca, Crete, Athens. Every great warrior in Greece is coming here. Achilles is coming. He pauses, letting that name sink in. Achilles, the greatest warrior alive, son of a goddess, nearly invincible. They'll bring thousands of ships, tens of thousands of men. They won't leave until Troy is ash, or they are. Troy cannot fall, Priam says, but there's doubt in his voice now. The walls don't win wars, Hector interrupts. Men do. And I'm telling you, the men coming for us are the best Greece has, led by my former allies, my sworn friends. Odysseus and I shared wine. Ajax saved my life once in battle. Now they're coming to kill me, because my brother couldn't keep his hands off another man's wife. It wasn't like that, you try to protest, but Hector rounds on you. Then how was it? Explain to me how you've done this to us. I didn't steal her, you finally say, voice firmer than you feel. Helen chose to come. Ask her yourself if you don't believe me. She walked onto that ship with her own feet, made her own decision. Because a goddess manipulated her, an elder snaps. Because Aphrodite clouded both your minds with lust and called it love. Perhaps, you admit, but even knowing that, even understanding we're pawns in divine games, I would do it again. The council erupts in shouts, but you push on. You sit here talking about honor and insults, about whose pride matters and how to apologize our way out of consequences. But none of you asked why. Why would a goddess orchestrate this? Why would Hera and Athena promise Troy's destruction? Because I chose Aphrodite over them at the judgment of Paris. Because I insulted two of the most powerful goddesses in existence. You see the recognition spreading through the room as they understand. Troy was already doomed the moment I made that choice. Even if I'd never gone to Sparta, never met Helen, Hera and Athena would have found another way to destroy us. This, you gesture helplessly, this is just the method they chose. Priam's voice cuts through the murmurs. Is this true? You brought divine vengeance down on us before you ever left. Yes. There's no point lying now. The oracle said I'd burn Troy. You tried to kill me as a baby to prevent it. But prophecies have a way of fulfilling themselves, don't they? You made me the instrument of our destruction the moment you feared I would be. The council falls silent. The truth of it settles like ash. Troy was going to fall regardless, because a prince insulted goddesses, because parents feared a prophecy, because divine beings play with mortal lives like children play with wooden toys. Hector looks at you with something beyond anger now, a terrible understanding. So we fight anyway, for nothing, for a war we cannot prevent. We fight because we're Trojans, Priam says heavily, because this is our home, and we don't surrender. That night, they finally let you see Helen. She's in rooms high in the palace tower, comfortable but guarded. When you enter, she's standing at the window staring out at Troy's streets below, at the people going about their evening routines, unaware that their world is ending. They're going to fight, you tell her. Priam chose to keep you here, to defend Troy's honor against Greece. Honor, Helen repeats. I'm so tired of that word. Men's honor. As if honor feeds children, or keeps cities standing. As if honor is worth thousands of lives. She turns to face you, and her beauty in the lamplight is devastating, and somehow tragic. Do you know what the worst part is? I'm grateful. Isn't that horrible? I'm grateful to be here instead of Sparta, even knowing what it costs. 7 years I spent being Menelaus's prize wife, smiling graciously at feasts, bearing his child, accepting that my life was defined by my face. And now I'm Troy's doom instead. But at least I chose it. You could still go back, you offer, but Helen shakes her head. No, that's the one thing I can't do. If I went back now after choosing to leave, Menelaus would make my life hell. I'd be watched every moment, treated as traitor and whore. And Hermione, her voice catches, she'd learn to hate me. Better she thinks I was stolen, thinks I had no choice. Better she remembers me as a victim than knows I'm a mother who chose to abandon her. You move to her, and she lets you hold her, though there's still a distance between you, a recognition that while Aphrodite brought you together, passion and companionship are not the same as love. You're united by shared guilt, shared doom, the understanding that you've both destroyed your worlds and can't go back. The Greeks will come, she whispers against your chest. And when they do, they'll sing songs about it for centuries. The war for Helen's face. Not Helen's choice. Not Helen's mind or heart or will. Just her face. That's all I'll ever be. The face that launched 1,000 ships. Weeks become months. The Greeks are gathering at Aulis, but it takes time to assemble thousands of ships, to organize the largest military expedition ever attempted. Troy uses this time to prepare, strengthening defenses, calling in allies, stockpiling supplies for siege. You and Helen exist in a strange limbo. You're married now, Priam insisted, trying to give some legitimacy to the situation. But it's a marriage born of necessity, not love. You share quarters, share a bed, and slowly, something genuine does begin growing between you. Not the passionate, all-consuming love Aphrodite promised, but something quieter, based on shared understanding and the intimacy that comes from two people trapped together by forces beyond their control. Helen teaches you to read Greek properly, shares her knowledge of astronomy and mathematics. You tell her stories of your time on Mount Ida, the simple life before you knew you were a prince. She laughs sometimes at your tales of sheep and storms and mountain solitude, and those moments feel precious, brief escapes from the weight of what's coming. But mostly you prepare for war. Hector insists you learn to fight properly. You won't survive 10 minutes against a Greek warrior with your shepherd skills, he tells you bluntly. So you train. Hours every day in the hot sun, learning sword work and spear technique, how to move in armor, how to fight from chariots. Your body hardens, muscles developing from constant practice. You'll never be Hector's equal. Few men alive are, but you become competent, deadly enough. The Trojans are surprisingly accepting of Helen. They expect to hate her, this foreign woman who brought war to their gates. But Helen moves through Troy with quiet dignity, visiting wounded soldiers, speaking kindly to servants, never demanding special treatment. She wins them over despite themselves, which somehow makes the whole situation more tragic. She's trying to be worth the price Troy is paying for her. The watchmen spot them on a bright morning in late spring. Sails. Hundreds upon hundreds of sails covering the horizon like a white storm. The Greek fleet has finally come. You're with Hector on the walls when the alarm sounds, and you watch together as the ships beach themselves on the shore miles away. They keep coming. wave after wave until the beach is black with Greek warriors and their beached vessels. You've never seen so many men in one place. Neither has anyone in Troy. This is beyond anything the world has witnessed. 1,000 ships, perhaps more, carrying 50,000 warriors bent on one purpose: taking Helen back, or destroying Troy trying. There, Hector points, his voice gone flat. That banner, that's Agamemnon. The black ship, see it? That's Odysseus. The one with the red sail, that's Ajax. And there. He trails off, and you see where he's looking. A ship unlike the others, its warriors different, taller, more organized, moving with predatory efficiency. Achilles. He came. The name sends ice through your veins. You've heard the stories. Achilles, son of Peleus and the sea goddess Thetis, trained by Chiron the centaur, the greatest warrior in the world, prophesies to win eternal glory through his deeds. Nearly invulnerable, protected by his divine mother's magic. A man who loves combat the way you once loved peaceful hillsides and morning mist. Can we win, you ask? And Hector doesn't answer immediately. Finally, I don't know. With gods on both sides, with prophecies and curses. I don't know. But we'll fight. That's what we do. Helen joins you on the walls, and her face when she sees the fleet is unreadable. Somewhere among those ships is Menelaus, the man she was married to for 7 years. Somewhere down there is Agamemnon, who thinks of her as his brother's stolen property. And somewhere, perhaps, are men who once courted her, who swore oaths to protect her marriage, now come to fulfill those vows by force. This is real, she says. I knew it was coming, but seeing it, all those men, all those deaths, for me, not for you, you tell her. Because of gods and pride and wounded honor. Because men would rather fight than show weakness. Below, the Greek army begins constructing a camp. The Greeks send a herald before they attack, Odysseus himself, the king of Ithaca, known for his clever mind and silver tongue. He comes under a white flag of truce, and Priam receives him in the great hall, with full Trojan nobility present. You and Helen are there, though Hector positioned you both behind the king's throne, partially hidden. Odysseus is shorter than you expected, compact and muscular, with intelligent eyes that seem to catalogue everything they see. He looks at Priam, at the assembled Trojans, and his gaze pauses when he spots Helen. Something flickers across his face, recognition, perhaps pity, before he turns his attention back to the king. King Priam, Odysseus begins, his voice carrying easily through the hall. I come with Agamemnon's demands. Return Helen to her rightful husband. Pay weregild, compensation, for the insult to Sparta's honor. Do this, and the Greek fleet will depart. Refuse, and we will take what is ours by force. Priam's response is measured. My son Paris claims Helen came willingly. She has confirmed this. A woman who chooses to leave her husband is not stolen. There is no theft to compensate. Respectfully, King Priam, your son seduced a married woman while enjoying her husband's hospitality. That's not honor. That's violation of sacred guest right. Zeus himself protects the bond between host and guest. You're defending the indefensible. The words hit hard because they're true. Everyone in the hall knows it. Paris violated one of the most sacred customs of your world. The trust between host and guest. It's why even Troy's allies are uneasy with defending you. But Priam doesn't waver. Helen stays. She is married to my son now, part of my family. I will not give her to you. Odysseus nods as if he expected this. Then let Helen herself choose, publicly. Let her stand before both armies and declare freely whether she wishes to return to Sparta or remain in Troy. No coercion, no divine influence, just her choice. The proposal seems fair on its surface, but you recognize the trap immediately. Helen, standing between two armies, Greeks who would be overjoyed to reclaim her, and Trojans who would see her choice to leave as betrayal. The pressure of 50,000 Greek warriors waiting for her to choose freedom. It's a false choice wrapped in the language of freedom. Before Priam can respond, Helen steps forward. Every eye turns to her, and she moves with that grace you've come to know, stopping before Odysseus. "King Odysseus," she says, and her voice is steady despite the weight of this moment. "I knew you before all this. You courted me once. You were kind, kinder than most, actually. You married Penelope instead, and I was glad for you both." Odysseus inclines his head. "I remember, Lady Helen. You deserved better than what happened, perhaps. But here's what you need to understand. There is no choice that ends this peacefully. If I choose to stay, you'll attack to reclaim me. If I choose to return, do you honestly think Paris and Troy would simply let me go? Either way, there will be war." She pauses, letting that sink in. "So I choose to stop pretending this is about my will. This war is about male pride, divine vengeance, and political power. I'm just the excuse." The hall erupts in murmurs, but Helen isn't finished. "I will not stand between your armies and perform my choice like a trained dog. I'm staying in Troy, not because I'm imprisoned, not because Paris holds me against my will, but because going back to Sparta offers nothing better. At least here, I chose to come." Odysseus looks at her for a long moment, and you see respect in his eyes mixed with sadness. "Then we're at war, Lady Helen. I'm sorry for that." "So am I," Helen replies quietly. "Tell Menelaus. Tell him I'm sorry for the pain. Tell Hermione her mother thinks of her every day." Odysseus nods once, turns, and leaves. The herald's staff, the white flag of truce, both protect him on his journey back to the Greek camp. The war begins tomorrow. The first battle comes 3 days later. The Greeks array themselves on the plain before Troy, a sight that will haunt your dreams forever. Lines of warriors stretching across the field, bronze armor catching the sun, shields and spears creating a forest of metal. 50,000 men, organized into contingents by kingdom, each with its own banners, its own war cries, its own legendary leaders. Troy responds with its own forces, Priam's sons and the city's warriors, plus allies from across Anatolia. The Lycians, the Dardanians, the Paeonians, kingdoms and peoples who have treaties with Troy, or fear Greek expansion, or simply think they can win. Maybe 20,000 men total. You're outnumbered more than 2 to 1. Hector leads the Trojan forces, his bronze armor gleaming, his presence inspiring confidence in the men around him. You're there too, though not in the front ranks. You're positioned with the archers, your shepherd's skill with the bow finally useful. You've become quite good, actually. One of Troy's best bowmen, capable of shots few can match. The battle begins with individual champions stepping forward to fight duels before the armies. This is how wars often start. Heroes seeking glory, testing the enemy's resolve. Ajax steps forward first, massive and terrible, and calls for a Trojan champion. One of your cousins answers, and you watch from the ranks as Ajax kills him in 3 brutal strikes. The Greeks roar approval. The Trojans shift uneasily. Then Hector steps forward, and the mood changes. He calls out Menelaus specifically, Helen's wronged husband, the man with the greatest claim to vengeance. "Come, King of Sparta," Hector shouts across the field. "Let's end this with honor. Single combat. If you win, Take Helen and go. If I win, the Greeks go home. Agamemnon grabs his brother's arm, clearly arguing against it, but Menelaus shakes him off and steps forward. This is personal for him, more personal than for anyone else on that field. You feel Helen's presence somehow, though she's back in Troy, on the walls, watching. This is the moment that defines everything. The duel is brutal and evenly matched. Menelaus is older, but rage fuels him, giving him strength beyond his years. Hector is the better warrior, technically, but he's fighting a man with nothing to lose, a man whose honor demands he kill or die trying. They circle each other, bronze weapons clashing. Menelaus strikes high, Hector blocks and counters. Back and forth they trade blows that would kill lesser men. Shields crack under the impacts, spear points bite into bronze armor, drawing blood. Both men are wounded, Hector bleeding from his thigh, Menelaus from his shoulder. But neither gives ground. The armies watch in breathless silence. This is what war should be. Heroes fighting for glory, not the bloody, grinding slaughter that's coming. This is the last moment before everything becomes horrible. Then Hector sees his opening. Menelaus overextends a strike, and Hector's spear catches him in the gap between breastplate and shield, sliding through bronze rings and into flesh. Not a killing blow, but severe. Menelaus staggers, blood flowing freely now, and his brother Agamemnon screams his name. Hector could finish it, should finish it, by the rules of single combat. But he hesitates, perhaps remembering the man Menelaus was before this, before Helen, when they were allies rather than enemies. That hesitation costs him Paris. You don't even consciously decide to do it. Your hands move on their own, drawing the bow, sighting along the arrow. You see Menelaus wounded. See your brother about to win Helen's former husband back to his feet. See the chance to end this. You release. The arrow flies true, your best shot, guided by years of mountain practice, and perhaps by Aphrodite's invisible hand. It takes Menelaus in the leg, the unarmored part behind the knee, and he goes down hard. Both armies explode into chaos. The Greeks see their king struck by an archer while engaged in honorable single combat. The Trojans see a decisive blow, a weakness exploited. No more duels, no more honor, just war. The battle rages for hours. What began as orderly ranks degenerates into desperate, chaotic melee. Men die screaming. Blood turns the dusty plain to mud, and the air fills with the sounds of bronze on bronze, flesh tearing, and the cries of the wounded. You keep firing arrows from behind the Trojan lines, targeting Greek warriors who press too close, providing cover for Trojan infantry. You're good at this, disturbingly good. Each shot finds its mark. Men fall with your arrows in their throats, their eyes, the gaps in their armor. You tell yourself you're defending Troy, protecting your people. But you know the truth. You started this war with cowardice, shooting Menelaus from safety rather than facing him honestly. Hector fights like a god unleashed. He cuts through Greek ranks, his spear taking lives with every thrust, his presence rallying Trojans who would otherwise break and run. Ajax stands against him, and the two greatest warriors on the field exchange blows that echo across the battlefield. Neither can gain advantage over the other. Ajax's massive strength matched by Hector's superior skill and speed. Then you see him, Achilles. He enters the battle late, and it's like watching a natural disaster. He doesn't just fight, he harvests lives. His spear moves too fast to follow, his reactions superhuman. Men try to stand against him, and die before they can strike. Trojans flee at his approach, and Greeks cheer his name like a war god descended. Hector sees him too and moves to intercept. The two circle each other like wolves, and everyone else creates space, knowing that watching two such warriors fight might be a once-in-a-lifetime sight. But night is falling, and both armies are exhausted. Horns blow retreat on both sides, and slowly, reluctantly, the warriors disengage, dragging wounded and dead back to their lines. The first battle of Troy is over. The butcher's bill is terrible. Troy lost 2,000 men. The Greeks perhaps 3,000. The plain between the armies is carpeted with bodies that will need to be burned before they rot in the Mediterranean heat. You return to the city with blood on your hands, literal and figurative. Helen finds you that night in your chambers. You're sitting in the dark, bow across your knees, still wearing your blood-stained armor. You can't stop seeing the faces of men you killed. Young men, old veterans, fathers and sons who won't go home because you put arrows through them. How many? She asks softly. 17. Your voice sounds dead, even to your own ears. 17 men today. I counted. Helen sits beside you, not touching, just present. Menelaus survived. He's wounded badly, but he'll live. The healers in the Greek camp are good. You don't know if that's supposed to make you feel better or worse. I shot him during single combat, from safety, while he fought Hector honorably. Even the Greeks who hated Troy must despise me now. They do, Helen confirms quietly. They're calling you Paris the Archer, and they don't mean it as a compliment. In Greek eyes, archery is a coward's weapon. Real men fight face to face with spear and sword. They're right. You finally look at her. I am a coward. I was a coward on Mount Ida when I chose Aphrodite's offer instead of accepting my fate. I was a coward in Sparta when I violated Menelaus's hospitality. I'm a coward on the battlefield, killing from a distance, while better men bleed up close. Helen is quiet for a long moment. You're also the reason Troy survived today. Hector told Priam, your arrows saved the left flank from collapsing. You killed 3 Greek officers who were cutting through our lines. Cowardly or not, you're effective. That's supposed to comfort me? No. She finally touches you, hand on your shoulder. Nothing comforts anyone in war. We just survive day by day and try not to think too hard about what we've become. She stays with you through the night, and you don't make love. You're both too drained, too empty. You just hold each other, like drowning people clutching wreckage, 2 people responsible for thousands of deaths, trying to find some human warmth in the cold knowledge of what you've done. The war settles into brutal routine. Battles every few days, each one claiming hundreds of lives. The Greeks can't breach Troy's walls, so they try to starve you out, raiding supply convoys and allied cities. The Trojans can't defeat the Greek army, so you defend and hope they'll eventually grow tired and go home. Months pass, a year, then 2. The war that everyone thought would be over quickly becomes a grinding stalemate. Heroes on both sides die. Your brothers fall one by one, brave men whose names you barely had time to learn before you became a prince. Each death weighs on Priam, aging him visibly. Each funeral pyre reminds everyone that this war started because of you and Helen. You become a more effective warrior, not with sword and spear. You'll never match Hector or Achilles there, but with your bow. You're Troy's best archer now, deadly accurate even at extreme range. Greeks have learned to fear you, to keep shields up when fighting near where you might have line of sight. You've killed hundreds of men over these years. You've stopped counting. Helen works in Troy's healing houses, tending wounded warriors. It's the only thing that keeps her sane, she tells you, having some purpose beyond being the war's cause. Trojan soldiers, at first resentful, come to respect her. She has gentle hands, knows medicine better than many healers, and treats everyone regardless of rank. She's earned her place in Troy through service and suffering. The worst part is the certainty. Everyone knows how this ends. The Trojans know Troy will fall. It's just a matter of when. The Greeks know they'll eventually win. It's just a matter of how many of them will die first. You're all locked in a death spiral caused by divine vengeance and male pride, unable to stop, even though everyone sees the cliff approaching. And through it all, Aphrodite is silent. The goddess who started this, who promised you love and gave you doom, hasn't spoken since you returned to Troy. You don't know if she's watching, pleased with the carnage, or if she's simply moved on to other toys. The end begins in the 10th year of the war. Achilles, who has been Troy's greatest threat, withdraws from battle. Some dispute with Agamemnon over a captured girl. The Greeks are fighting among themselves now, fraying under the strain of endless war. For weeks, without Achilles, the Trojans push the Greeks back. Hector leads assault after assault, and you dare to hope that maybe, possibly, you might actually win. Then Patroclus, Achilles' closest friend and companion, enters battle wearing Achilles' armor. He cuts through Trojan lines like his friend would have, and for a moment the Greeks think Achilles has returned. But Hector confronts him before the walls of Troy, and in fierce combat, kills him. You're on the walls. You see it happen. You see Hector's spear punch through the armor that isn't quite right, wasn't quite fitted properly. You see Patroclus fall, and you see Achilles, who has been watching from the Greek camp, scream. The sound that comes from Achilles is inhuman, pure grief transmuted into rage, a howl that carries across the battlefield and makes every Trojan soldier feel ice in their veins. You know in that moment that Hector is dead. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon. Achilles will not stop until he's avenged his companion. That night, Hector knows it too. He comes to your chambers where you sit with Helen, and his face is calm, accepting. I killed Patroclus today, he says, which means Achilles will kill me tomorrow, or the next day. That's how these things work. The fates are already spinning my death thread. You can't know that, you start, but Hector cuts you off. I do know it. I've known it for years. I'm not leaving Troy. Even if I could run, I wouldn't. This is my city, my people, my responsibility. But you, he looks at Helen, you could still leave. Both of you. Take a ship, flee to Egypt or Cyprus, somewhere beyond Greek reach. Live. Have children. Grow old. Helen shakes her head. Where we go, war follows. That's our curse. Achilles comes for Hector the next day. He's wearing new armor, divine armor forged by Hephaestus himself at his mother's request, gleaming gold and bronze that seems to shimmer with its own light. He stands before Troy's gates and calls Hector out by name. Hector, son of Priam, come face me, you who killed my Patroclus. Come die on my spear like the dog you are. Priam begs Hector not to go. Your mother Hecuba weeps and pleads. Hector's wife Andromache clings to him with their infant son in her arms, begging him to stay behind the walls, to let others face Achilles. But Hector knows that if he hides, Troy's morale will shatter. The defender of Troy cannot hide from any challenge, even one he knows he'll lose. He kisses his wife and son, embraces his father, looks at you one last time with something in his eyes that might be forgiveness, and walks out through the gates. The duel is everything the poets will later claim. Hector fights brilliantly, using every skill learned from decades of warfare. But Achilles is beyond human now. Grief and rage have made him something more than a man, and that divine armor turns aside blows that should have killed him. They fight for an hour as both armies watch in silence. Then Achilles' spear finds the gap at Hector's throat, the only vulnerable spot in his armor. Hector falls to his knees, blood pouring from his neck, and uses his last breath to beg Achilles to return his body for proper burial. Achilles refuses. He strips Hector's armor, ties the body to his chariot, and drags it around Troy's walls 3 times, while the Trojans watch in horror. Your brother's body bouncing over stones, being defiled and destroyed. And there's nothing you can do but watch. You draw your bow. You could shoot Achilles from here. You have the skill, the angle. But Helen's hand on your arm stops you. You can't, she whispers. He's protected by the gods. Your arrow won't reach him. And if it did, they'd storm the city immediately. Hector wouldn't want that. So you stand, helpless, while your brother's corpse is desecrated. Priam does something extraordinary. That night, in secret, the aged king of Troy leaves the city and goes alone to Achilles' tent in the Greek camp. He brings ransom, gold, treasures, gifts beyond counting, and he begs for his son's body back. You and Helen watch from the walls as he leaves, this old man who could be killed on sight, walking into enemy territory because he refuses to let his son lie unburied. He'll die, you whisper. Achilles will kill him for daring to come. But hours later, Priam returns. He's carrying Hector's body, wrapped in fine cloth. Achilles, moved by the old king's grief and courage, or perhaps by memories of his own father, granted the request. There will be a truce for funeral rites. 12 days for Troy to mourn its greatest defender. Hector's funeral is the largest Troy has ever seen. The entire city comes out to honor the prince who protected them for so long. The pyre burns for days, and the keening of women, Andromache, Hecuba, all of Troy's wives and mothers who've lost men to this endless war, echoes through the city. You stand beside Helen at the pyre, and you realize this is the beginning of the end. Hector was Troy's heart, its greatest warrior, its hope. Without him, it's only a matter of time. I killed him, you say to Helen that night. I brought the Greeks here. If I'd never gone to Sparta, then Hera and Athena would have found another way, Helen interrupts. That's what you told the council, remember? The goddesses wanted Troy destroyed. We were just the excuse they used. If not us, it would have been something else. A trade dispute, a border raid, any insult they could inflate into war. Does that make you feel better? No, she admits, but it helps me sleep at night. Sometimes. The 12 days of truce end, the war resumes, and now, without Hector, the Trojans begin to lose ground steadily. Every battle sees Troy's forces pushed back a little more, casualties mounting, supplies dwindling. You kill Achilles with your bow. It happens 3 months after Hector's death, during a skirmish near the Scaean Gate. You see him without his helmet and you take the shot. Your arrow hits him in the heel, the only vulnerable spot his mother's divine protection didn't cover. He falls, and the Greeks rage and mourn their hero. But it doesn't matter. The momentum has shifted. Troy is dying. The wooden horse arrives in the 10th year's final months. The Greeks appear to have abandoned their camp. Tents struck, ships sailed away. Only this massive wooden horse remains on the beach, with an inscription claiming it's an offering to Athena for safe passage home. You argue against bringing it inside. It's a trick. It has to be a trick. The Greeks wouldn't just leave after 10 years, not without taking some revenge. But Troy is desperate to believe the war is over. Priam, aged beyond his years and broken by grief, wants to believe. The people want to celebrate, want to think they've outlasted their enemies. Only Cassandra, your sister cursed to speak true prophecies no one believes, screams warnings that the horse will bring destruction. They drag the horse through Troy's gates anyway. That night, the city celebrates. Wine flows freely, people dance in the streets, laughing, laugh, and sing for the first time in a decade. You don't join them. You sit in your chambers with Helen, both of you knowing something is wrong, unable to explain the dread you feel. Midnight comes. The city sleeps, exhausted from celebration and wine. Then the screaming starts. Greek warriors pour from the horse's belly. Odysseus and a select group had been hiding inside. They open Troy's gates from within, and the Greek army, which only pretended to leave, rushes through. The city that couldn't be breached by siege falls to deception in a single night. Fire spreads quickly. Greek soldiers rampage through streets, killing any Trojan man they find, taking women and children as slaves. You grab your bow and fight desperately, trying to reach Helen, to protect her. You see Priam murdered at Zeus's altar by Achilles' son, the old king dying while trying to pray for mercy. You see Andromache dragged away screaming, her son torn from her arms and thrown from Troy's walls to ensure no heir survives. You see everything you've spent 10 years fighting to protect, burning and dying around you.